Hey, welcome everybody to Pro Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Craig Doman. Today we have someone from New Jersey. Her name is Suzanne Taylor-King. Suzanne is an entrepreneur. She's an executive coach. She's a podcaster, and she views herself as a business strategist, an AI enthusiast, and a community founder. Suzanne, welcome to Pro Mindset today.
Thank you so much, Craig. Great to be here.
Okay, Suzanne, let's rock and roll. When you are on an airplane and you have a very interesting person, you perceive a very interesting person next to you, and they say, Suzanne, what's your story? And you don't have all day, but you have more than, 20 seconds. What do you share with them?
I share typically the story from the time I was 11 years old. I was always trying to find some other way of getting my work done. And it started with my first entrepreneurial journey at 11. I had a paper route and I paid a neighborhood boy to deliver the papers. And I just did the collection of the money and the tip receiving. And I paid him about $3 an hour to do that work for me. And I got in so much trouble for doing that until I explained the entrepreneurship of that decision. And I got out of my punishment with my dad. And that just kind of started the journey of the mindset of providing something that somebody else wanted and figuring out how to do that as a career.
Okay, so be honest. How much did you make an hour when your bicycle rider delivery man boy was making $3 an hour? How much?
Between 7 and 9.
Did you really? Wow. That's a great profit margin.
Yeah.
And because the people didn't see, did he do it early in the morning?
No, he was just my partner.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it didn't matter.
Didn't matter. Okay. So you really did it together.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay. How has that transformed in your business career to today?
Well, I think I went to college for something very, very practical, to be a dental hygienist. And I was a dental hygienist for 20 years. But during that time, I was always starting business. I call that my stage of life where I was doing business for boyfriends. And I started 3 different businesses during that time with my boyfriend as my partner. Not a good recipe that I recommend, especially if you're going to live with those boyfriends. So the lesson I took from that, the very first business was such a huge success, but I continued working as a hygienist because that was my kind of safety net, my medical benefits and my paid vacation. So it enabled me to be an entrepreneur with a little bit more risk taking and a little bit more adventure. So I just kept following that same recipe, whether the business was a failure or whether it was a success, and carry that forward to today. It's been 40 years since I started my first official business, and doing that for other people and being that person who has made the mistakes and had great successes, but also the lessons were really learned in all the failures and the mistakes.
Let's share with the audience your top 3 learnings from these mistakes.
Number 1, track inventory meticulously when you have people working for you. That was number 1. I was young and dumb and trusted everyone when I was in my early 20s, and inventory seemed to walk out the door constantly. So didn't have a tracking system. It was before social media and computers, really. And that I didn't know what I didn't know at 22. So that was number 1. Number 2 is finances first, profit first. And whatever that looks like, I've since read books on that topic. That was a lesson I didn't learn till business number 2, and really making sure that all of those bills were paid and all of those things before I took a salary, and being able to have an accountant and have other people who were good at those things help me learn that. That was number 2. And number 3 was don't start any more businesses with boyfriends.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I assume you're not married to a boyfriend you started the business with.
No. Clean slate. I'm married to an engineer for the past 20 years and completely not an entrepreneur.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So your theme seems to be connected to a Greek word.
Yeah.
And the Greek word is eudaimonia.
Close. Eudaimonia.
Oh, monia. Okay. What does that mean, and why do you have that as the centerpiece of your purpose in your business?
Well, I love Stoic philosophy. And when I discovered the commonalities between Stoic philosophy and positive psychology, I've been studying positive psychology for about 10 years when I discovered the connection. And to me, it means, who am I being as a person, energy-wise, work-wise, love-wise? How am I showing up every day? And if I'm not showing up as the best version of myself, for me, I can't help you do that for you and your business. So it kind of became the centerpiece of living a happy, fulfilled, contented life. And the opposite of eudaimonia, your daimon is that angel on your shoulder, that best version of yourself who knows what to do. And your demon is the opposite, the devil on the other shoulder. So for me, it was about really embracing that wise version of myself and trusting it. And when I found that word, I said, this perfectly describes how I want to show up every day.
Okay, so you woke up this morning.
Mm-hmm.
How does it apply to your day today? What were your intentions? What was your connection to that concept of beingness that allowed you to kickstart your day and do what you do today?
Well, I think number 1, every day starts with, a loose routine of taking care of me. And then I take care of other people that are in my house, from the dog to my son to my husband. But I think putting yourself first, especially as a woman, is for men too. I don't want to say that it's not, but I think that's one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur, to put the exercise and the mindset work and maybe a little energy work, journaling, whatever your morning routine is, putting that first before you jump into taking care of other people. So for me, it's about remembering who I am and what I'm here to do every day and setting that intention as cellular memory for myself every day. Every day I have to do it.
Every day.
If I skip a day, totally honest with you, if I skip a day, that usually ends up being a day I wouldn't want to repeat.
Okay, when you use the term cellular memory, be more expansive in your description of that. What does that mean?
To me, it means when you decide who you want to be, on a moment to moment basis, that it's not fake. It's not imposter syndrome. It's not, I'm pretending to be a millionaire entrepreneur. I actually am. I am, and I'm being it. I'm feeling it. And my body remembers who the heck I'm showing up to be for other people.
What is the connection, in your opinion, between our bodies and our minds in terms of the concept of your body remembers? Your body holds on to trauma. Your body, like a lot of our illnesses and our sicknesses and some of our pain, like chronic pain, comes from emotional events that happen. What is your perception of that?
I didn't understand it a long time ago, but through my own journey of bad things happening to me personally and business-wise, I realized I had a lot of pain, and I had a semi-pro athlete career as a snowboarder and lots of injuries. So I kind of saw the injuries as that was the reason, when I hit 50 that everything hurt. But it was really more than that for me. And there were so many bad or negative things that caused grief for me that happened within maybe an 8 or a 10-year period, that the cumulative effect of the stress, the grief, the just responsibility of those situations kind of left me with lots of neck pain, lots of back pain, and I didn't want to be taking meds for that. So I found holistic modalities to help me with that pain. And one of those discoveries was that your body holds on to emotions. And it makes sense to me completely that if you're upset and you're grieving or you're stressed, you protect yourself by slouching, curling in. And that's kind of what was happening to my body. My back was in pain. My neck was in pain. And really diving into, well, why? Why? I'm so curious all the time. And I really think that journey for me was very, very difficult. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it at all. I lived with a headache for about 3 years, and my son was little at the time, and I wanted to be free of that. And I just started trying everything I could possibly find, from acupuncture to inner child work to therapy to Reiki to massage to essential oils to herbs and supplements. I mean, the list is like ridiculous what I did. Part of it was so internal for me, and acknowledging that I really had been through a lot of negative stuff and I hadn't really unpacked each one of those things.
Okay. There's somebody listening to this podcast that right now is in the symptom phase.
Yeah.
They've got the migraines. They've got the body aches. They've got the ringing in the ears. They've got something going on. How did you play doctor just for a second?
Yeah.
And help them understand, this is what you dealt with. You don't have to share everything, but tell us something. This is what your symptoms were. And of all the things you tried, what were the 1 or 2 things that made the biggest difference?
Oh, I love this question. I had been having these headaches, and obviously that led, the medical route was neurology and MRIs. And the first MRI came back and said that I had 40 lesions in the gray matter of my brain. And I was like, no. Well, what's the diagnosis for that? Is MS. And the neurologist, my family doctor, was basically like, you have MS. It's time to start on meds. And I thought, no, I don't have any symptoms for that. It's got to be something else. So I went to another neurologist. He said the same thing. I was like, okay. So then the therapist that I went to said it was time to accept my diagnosis and my fate. And what?
But
Hell no. No. Have you met me? No, we're not accepting any of that. And my husband had a talk with me about, maybe you should think about starting on the meds. And I dove headfirst into research on how to heal your brain. And it was a long journey, but that journey, a year long, consisted of supplements and food and meditation and mindfulness and essential oils and like a whole routine, a whole protocol that I followed. And it was very strict, and I stuck to it like nobody's business. I mean, I think I ate a pound of blueberries every single day. Whole nother story on the food.
Hey, give us, stay on track.
Yeah.
Give us 3 foods we need to eat daily that will maybe people don't emphasize it enough. What are the 3 things? 3 foods.
Wild blueberries, preferably from like Northern America or Canada. Kale, unfortunately, and I put that in smoothies, and omega 6s. So foods rich in omega 6s, and I supplemented that as well with a liquid omega 3 and 6 supplement. So that was the three main things.
Awesome.
And
okay,
there's a whole list of supplements. So after following that protocol for a year, I marched myself back to a new neurologist who was under 30 years old and had another MRI, and there was one lesion left. And when I went for my appointment, I was so excited. I was just, I was right. I was so validated in that moment that I didn't have MS. And when I got to my appointment, the nurse escorted me to his office. And he looked at me and he said, I have cleared my calendar for the next hour, which we all know neurologists give you 10 minutes, maybe, for an appointment. I need to know exactly what you've been doing since you were seen here in this office last by Dr. So-and-so. And I said, I brought my notebook. Would you like to see everything I've been doing? And he was like, yeah. And we had the most insightful conversation. It validated the work I had done. But at the end of the conversation, he said, well, most likely you didn't have MS. I was like, okay, cool. I don't care. I don't care how we got here.
He paid millions of dollars for that medical degree.
Yeah.
So he has to validate his own career and his own work.
Exactly.
Right? So I get it.
Exactly.
Okay. So what was in your journal that day?
The daily routine of what I was eating, what supplements I was taking, what essential oils I was putting on the roof of my mouth, behind my ears, on my spine, on my feet, itemized out.
I want you to picture text that page to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to do that.
I have it. And I have shared it with a couple of people close to me. And it's been really helpful for them as well.
Okay. So what was in your journal, though, that night or that next day when you reflected upon that, like earth-shattering, life-changing discussion you had with that neurologist about, affirming what you did worked?
I think it gave me an insight into myself that I started to trust my own information that was in my head, my intuition. And it was a whole new level of, I can't keep this stuff that I know to myself anymore. And it gave me a whole new level of confidence when it came to my health coaching that I was doing at the time, the speaking I was doing. Like, I really believe that I was my own best client for that sole purpose of giving me the confidence to help other people in a bigger way.
Just out of curiosity, what are the couple things that you eliminated from your diet? Because it's always ads and subtractions.
Yes. And subtractions might be actually more important. Caffeine, alcohol, and sugar. None. Had none.
How did you eliminate sugar?
It's
everything.
I was relentless.
Well, you just shot my favorite drinks.
I know.
Sodas have sugar. They have sugar substitutes.
I was a Diet Coke girl my whole entire life. And that was the hardest thing to give up. And, sugar is in absolutely everything. I ate nothing that came out of a box. I still don't eat much that comes out of a box. I didn't eat out at restaurants, mostly organic, everything I prepared myself. And I think when I say I eat no sugar, I was just at the dentist the other day getting my teeth cleaned. And I think it's been 3 years since I've had x-rays, and they wanted to do x-rays. I said, no, that's okay. I don't want any. And she said, why? I said, well, I've never had a cavity, and it's been years since I've had very much sugar. And she just looked at me like, you don't eat sugar? Well, on my birthday, I have birthday cake and once in a while I'll have a glass of red wine, but no, I don't eat sugar. And she was shocked.
Okay, I'm going to give you a new nickname. No Sugar Suzanne.
Yeah, and I've never had a cavity.
Wow. Okay. We've gone through this really diet lifestyle change. And we've also got medical proof that it worked. So how do you pass this on to the world?
Well, it was speaking about my journey to groups of people, anybody who would listen. Right about that time, I started a Facebook group and I started studying positive psychology to really help people wrap their mind around these decisions that I had to make for myself, because truly 90% of those choices that I made were all mindset oriented. Many people are not willing to make those changes because it's too hard to give up the things we have to give up. And it's too hard to eat, the way we need to eat to be healthier or lose weight or whatever the story is. And most of the work I was doing with my health coaching clients was mindset work. And that's what led me to positive psychology and led me to doing more work upstairs. And I'm really thankful for that because it was transformative in my own personal development journey. So by helping other people again, it helped me grow.
What's the biggest mindset block that you had, and that you're just like everybody else? We all got it. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest mindset block? What was the hardest thing to shift about how you viewed your life, your health, your day, your schedule, your self-care, all the things that all integrated that impact how we put things in our mouth, what we put in our mouth, and how we spend our day, and how we respond to adversity and challenges and curveballs? What was the number one thing?
That I was worth doing that, that I wasn't too old or too fat or too, it was worth, and it was that taking care of me was the number one priority, that was, somehow selfish to do that.
Okay. Unworthiness is such a huge epidemic in our society. How did you tap into your worth? How did you hold on to it when the world told you you weren't? How did you hold on to it when your family and your friends and your coworkers and your projects and your to-do list told you couldn't be first?
Yeah. There was an activity I learned from a massage therapist during my healing journey. It was called the Circle of Excellence. And it was basically about standing in an imaginary circle with all of your knowledge, all of your certifications, all of your relationships, all the positive things about yourself, and basically just closing your eyes and standing there in that circle and remembering all of those things every day. And I did that activity every single day, still do it once in a while when I forget who I am and what I've accomplished, and, that I'm here and still living and not on any medication, and I'm living the life that I had planned out for myself. And I think so many people skip that remembering part. You get so caught up in the to-do list, you forget.
Everything is different and everything is similar. Mm-hmm. So pro mindset is really about how to be your best in your biggest moments, but it starts with your story and your identity.
Yeah.
And unless you rewrite your story, which you rewrote your story, you committed to rewrite your story the moment a couple doctors told you had MS, you should get on medication, and your husband agreed with them.
Yeah.
And the person that's closest to you is telling you the same thing the docs are telling you. And you were like, you blew it up. You blew up the status quo. You blew up society's view of you. And you started playing an inside game instead of an outside game. And when you play an inside game, it's different.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's you and you, and it's you in that circle with all your worthiness, all your beauty, all your intelligence, all your value, all your worth, your gifts.
Yeah.
But the world wants us to play an outside game.
Mm-hmm.
In sports, they want you to look at the scoreboard. They want you to compare. They want you to try to be perfect. All these things that make you feel inadequate and unprepared and unworthy.
So true.
So I've got a concept called performance bubble. And it's the same thing as, I call yours an identity circle.
Mm-hmm.
It's your identity circle. Everything that's for you, you get to bring in. Who you want to become gets to come in. Who you are gets to come in. Who you don't want to be anymore doesn't get to come in. And that's the initiator for change. It's the awareness to even know that there are things that you are that you don't want to be. And there's things that you want to become that you're not, but you have to change to actually move there. No, that's awesome. It's so simple. Sometimes the most impactful things are simple.
Yeah. I had a coach not too long ago reflect back to me that I was really great at noticing what my first thought was and not being tied to that first thought of the saboteur, or the judge, whatever you want to call that voice in your head that's negative. I had a name for her, but I broke up with her. And now when I hear her voice, I am not responsible for that first thought, but I am damn well responsible for the second one. And it was all about that space between that first thought of, I'm not good enough to do that. Who am I to charge that much? Can I actually do this? And then the second thought that I'm responsible for creating and getting really good at that. And I think if that was a superpower, I have that superpower to be able to do that. But it was practice that got me. And I love what you said about challenging the status quo. That's one of my whys is to challenge that, not only for myself, but for other people.
So one of the lessons I try to learn from everybody I talk to on a podcast is that first thought doesn't necessarily have to be it.
Yeah.
The first thought is somewhat, it's responsive. It's not well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like when you see Goliath, your first thought is, oh, I can't beat that. I can't kill that person.
Yeah.
But the second thought is you've got a gun in your hand. You've got tools. You got weapons. You have skills.
Yeah.
You also have value, all those things. And so I would agree with you that a lot of people never get to their second thought because they buy in to the first one.
For sure.
I call that the pocket voice. It's in your pocket all the time, goes with you everywhere. And you've got to train your pocket voice
Mm-hmm.
to sing a new song, to speak differently. And you can't do that if you don't even know you have that voice. And if you listen to the first one, like you mentioned, you never get to the real one.
I think it was helpful to name her. I named her Betty and I labeled her a bitch. She's a bitch and I don't listen
Betty the bitch. Woo! Betty the bitch is the voice, the negative voice.
Yep.
Okay. That was super dope. Super dope.
Thank you.
I'm going to shift gears. You talk about that your legacy is not what you do, but who you become. Give us some meat on the bone on what that means to you.
Well, I think it goes back to reading the book. I think it was called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And it was written by a nurse who was like a hospice nurse, and realizing that at the end of all these people's lives, nobody regretted relationships. Nobody regretted, the incredible things they had done with their family or honoring themselves. The biggest regrets were that they didn't have the courage to live more authentically, or that they didn't have the ability to go for what they wanted, or they didn't tell the people who meant something to them that they loved them. And it really just stuck with me. And I think I did a eulogy exercise with a coach, and which is a great exercise to do, to imagine yourself, at your own funeral. What do you want everybody to be saying about you? And really reading what you want people to be saying about you, and then go live as that person. And it really sealed it in for me. What was important, my friendships, my son, my husband, and everything else, the social media following and the influencer status and the email list and, the funnel and the things didn't really mean anything. I mean, they're nice, they make me money, but that's not what's important.
My mother is 87. She lives with us, and she had an episode in October last fall, and, she was given like a 9% chance to live. And so we had all those end of life conversations. And all I could see was all the things that I thought were important, she didn't care about.
Yeah.
And it's like all that mattered to her was the people around her.
Mm-hmm.
And we get so caught up into achieving, doing, gaining, winning, that we forget it's the beingness that's more important than the doingness.
Yeah. Yeah, I was lucky enough to make it to the hospital when my dad was passing with about a 2-hour window, and a whole bunch of circumstances, before that put me in that situation, able to be there for those 2 hours, which I'm very thankful for. But the only thing he was concerned with was I happy? That's it. He didn't want to talk about anything else. He just wanted to make sure that I was happy and fulfilled. And I was astonished by that.
The simplicity of it too.
The simplicity of the conversation. I mean, we had a great relationship, and the ease of the conversation. I think, obviously we both knew that it was just going to be our last conversation. So there was lots of tears and lots of emotions, and I can talk about it now pretty comfortably. But I think remembering that that's what was important to him, well, I just want to be that for my son.
Okay, so you have a son.
Mm-hmm.
How have you passed on your wisdom? How old is he, by the way?
He is 15.
Oh my God, he's smarter than you are at the moment, which is really cool.
For sure. Yeah.
He's got life figured out. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But how have you passed on this wisdom to your son?
Gosh. Well, he has grown up hearing me have conversations with people. Being a coach, I have a lot of deep conversations with people. Even though I'm a business coach, we're still talking about all the things we're talking about today: limiting beliefs, mindset, confidence, being able to share your message with the world in a bigger way. And he hears those conversations. He also is witness to a really great marriage relationship. And he hears us not agree all the time, but actually have conversations about not agreeing, not yelling, not screaming at each other. And so I think that's part of it. The second part would be that we've always had really great conversations. They all typically in the car. We're going somewhere. There's no distractions. There's no TV. Now
no video games.
Well, yeah, now he has all that, but he didn't when he was younger. And we had incredible conversations. And I think still to this day, I am the person that he feels comfortable talking to. He's asked me some really interesting questions lately. I received some photos in the mail from my high school boyfriend, which he has a girlfriend now. And in the pictures, I was his age.
Mm.
And when I showed him the pictures, I said, I was 15 in that picture. I was 16 in that picture. He's like, how do you remember? I'm like, you just do. You just know what you looked like at a certain age, right?
Yeah.
And there was a picture of me. And he said, whose room are you in there? Is that your bedroom? I was like, no, that was my high school boyfriend's bedroom. And he was like, what? What? I said, yeah, I had a boyfriend. That was his room. That's a picture of me standing in his room. He said,
well, he's like, Mom, when can I bring my girlfriend to my room?
yes, yes. So that honesty on my part, kind of broached a whole new topic for discussion about being alone with the girlfriend, which where the conversation went. I don't have to tell you. And I was able to hold it together and be very calm and very, informative and answer the questions. And my son is adopted too. So he knows, and he knows his whole story. And he's known he was adopted since he could understand like words. We've always said it in front of him. And from the time he was in first grade and he asked, what's adopted? And the way I explained it to him is how I continue to explain things to him today. I said, well, you know how a baby grows in your belly? And he's in first grade. He was like, uh-huh. I said, well, some women can have a baby grow in their belly, but they can't be mommies. Other women can be mommies, but they can't grow a baby. Okay. I said, so your birth mom could grow a baby, but she couldn't be a mommy. And she picked me to be your mommy.
That's wonderful.
Okay. He was like, okay. Didn't ask about it again for 2 years. Then he asked a couple more questions. And I was always totally transparent with him and 100% honest. And when he was about 7 or 8, he asked, do you have a picture of her? What is her name? Yes, I do. Let me go find it. And it's been a most beautiful, open communication. He doesn't have any contact with her. She's never wanted that. And I often consult with other adoptive families on how to have this conversation and be comfortable with the conversation as the adoptive parents.
That has to be one of the most important conversations you have with your son.
Yes.
And as he gets older, it becomes more important.
Yes.
Because they have a first voice that tells them that they weren't wanted, they weren't good enough, and they are wondering why mommy that grew him in her tummy couldn't become a mommy.
Yeah.
Or didn't want to become a mommy.
I answered all of those questions because I knew the answers, because I actually had that conversation with her before he was born. And I think because I was willing to have that conversation and release the worry that if I have these conversations with her, she's going to pick somebody else. And I think translating that into business now, I'm willing to have hard conversations, even if somebody's not going to become a client. It's the same kind of energy and mindset about having the conversation that matters most to the person in front of you at any given time without attachment of what it's going to do for me.
That's sound business advice right there.
Thank you. Thank you. But it started with him. It started with me wanting to show up for him as the most powerful person I could. Strength-wise, his birth mom gave my husband and I something that God couldn't give us at the time. And, I need to honor her part in this relationship. And that felt amazing to me to come from that place.
That's awesome. All right, let's shift again.
Yeah.
What is the number one epidemic that you find in people that you coach that everybody that's listening has the same challenge that you could share with them? The issue, the solution, or the shift in their mindset, change in their limiting beliefs, and then the positive impact of how it shows up on their Monday mornings, how it shows up in their relationships, how it shows up in their business meetings?
I think my favorite is this idea of abundance and collaboration. So I get a lot of referrals and I get a lot of great introductions to people. That's how I'm sitting here on this podcast with you. It's come after years of networking the wrong way, networking to get a client, meet a client, sell a client. And sometime about 10 years ago, I read a book called The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. And I thought, oh, I can do that. And it didn't work because I was still doing it. I was still giving with the intention of receiving something. So, giving you help and expecting you to become a client. So every single one of my clients, whether they're in my community, at the lowest price point, or whether they're, one of my one-on-one clients who pays much, much more, the same exact mental journey is required to be in business today. I don't care whether you're automated funnels or whether you're relationship driven like I am. You have to be able to interact with other people from a place of being of value to them without expecting something in return. And I will say that I get very strange looks from clients in the beginning. You want me to do what? You want me to what? I have to be of value to other people. And they think it's their opt-in or their newsletter or their, free this or free that. No. Nobody wants those things from you. I'm talking about being of value to the people in your network, whether it's introductions or people or time or listening or help. And when you can do that from a place of I'm giving to you, but I don't need anything back from you. I'm going to depend on, the universe to bring back to me. And it sounds a little woo-woo to actually understand that money circulates. And if I give money to the hair salon, get a haircut, that money someday will end up back in my wallet just from the interactions in my temp. So if energetically that's what happens with money, understanding that being of value to other people, you will receive value. It might not be from this person right here that you're providing value to, but it will come from someone else and trusting.
I 1000% agree with that philosophy, almost to a fault.
Yes. I mean, I would
do things for people all the time where I'm not expecting anything in return. Where I get my return is from somebody else.
Yes.
And so I really feel like it's like you have a responsibility to help people that you can help. But other people have a responsibility to help you if they can help you.
Yes.
Everybody does their responsibility. You help one person, but the community helps you. You help another person in the community comes back and helps you. And everybody's helping everybody, and the money's flowing. It's none of our money anyway.
Right.
We don't get to take it with us. So it's just, it's the universe's money. It's God's money. And we're just using it for a period of time.
Yeah. And I think the more, with most of my clients, the common complaint, I'm just not meeting the right people. I'm just not in the right room. And when the truth is, you're just not being the right person. And with that slight shift, other rooms open up, other people open up. And I will use this perfect example, and it just happened to me end of last year. I had been in a mastermind group for about 6 months, learning AI from an incredible mentor. And he knew me. I mean, he knew me as well as he could know me, being in a group of 30 people. I provided value in the group. But here's what he noticed. He noticed that in his gigantic Facebook group, 200,000 people, that I would answer questions from beginners, that I would learn something from him and then post what I had learned, which makes him look really good for being my teacher. And he just took notice of that. Like, wow, you're really taking action on everything I'm teaching. Well, yes, that's why I'm in the group and learning and then answering other people's questions. And so a couple months of that, I was going to teach a workshop and I messaged him and I said, I'm teaching a workshop in 3 weeks on AI prompting just for business. 50% of what I'm teaching is what I've learned from you. Would you like to co-facilitate the workshop with me? He said yes and invited 80,000 people from his email list.
Wow.
I didn't know he had an email list that was that big. I didn't understand that the people that he knew that he could introduce me to, I'm just now understanding because he's making introductions for me that I did not ask for. I did not ask. It's because I showed up and I was of value and now we're peers. Now he is in my membership group and interacting with my people and providing value. And we talked about it on his podcast a couple weeks ago. And he said, you provide so much value and I knew blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, it was you. It was you. And we fought back and forth. No, it was you. No, it was you. No, it was you. That's how you have to show up.
Amen, sister. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Okay. What have we not talked about today that you would like to share? Is there anything on the top of your head?
I guess what I do with my clients, my community is for entrepreneurs who are looking to grow their business income-wise, network with great people. There's an AI mastermind. There's also a course in my community, and I have it all grouped in one. Most of my one-on-one clients are looking to increase their influence and authority, and I make them look that part in the online space and help them own that person that they truly want to become. And it looks like creating podcasts, creating offers, increasing pricing, changing who their ideal client is and going for a big up level or upgrade with that, and really helping them confidently and charismatically step on stage and own who they are.
It's wonderful. Where can people find you?
SuzanneTaylor-King.com.
SuzanneTaylor-King.com. Thank you so much for being on today, Susan.
You're so welcome.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
I did. It was very, different, and I like it. I like it because it was organic and had no idea where we're going to end up today.
I had no idea either. I want to thank everybody today for listening. If you liked what you heard about Suzanne and heard from her today, by all means, reach out to her, join one of her mastermind groups, Facebook groups, whatever it may be. And Suzanne, I want you to have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for being on Pro Mindset Podcast.
Thank you so much.